Hello students. In today's video we are going to learn about the different methods of preparation of ethers. Under the topic alcohols, phenols and ethers, so far we have learned about the preparation and the physical and chemical properties of alcohols and phenols. Now we have come to the end of this chapter where we are going to learn about ethers. First we will start with the different methods of preparation of ethers. We are going to follow just two methods to prepare ethers. First method by dehydration of alcohols. The next one, Williamson synthesis. The first one, the dehydration of alcohols, we have already seen in the chemical properties of alcohols. We have seen hydration of alkenes to give alcohols, which we have learned in the preparation of alcohols. Then under the chemical properties of alcohols, we have seen dehydration of alcohols to give alkenes, the reverse of the first reaction. So when you dehydrate alcohols to get the product, depending upon the experimental condition, you can either get alkene or ether. So we are going to take that experimental condition where you get ether from alcohols and use that as a method of preparation of ethers. So how can you prepare ether? By dehydrating alcohol, by acidic dehydration of alcohols. So I am taking alcohol. Here we are going to take two alcohols and we are going to remove a molecule of water from these two alcohols. We call this as intermolecular dehydration of water because you are removing water molecule from two of these alcohols. If from only one alcohol the water molecule is removed, then you end up with alkene. But here we are going to remove water from these two alcohols. This reaction takes place in the presence of concentrated sulfuric acid at 413 Kelvin. So H2O. So after removing this, what is remaining? ROR. That is nothing but ether. So water is coming out. So this is the way of preparing ether from alcohols by dehydrating alcohols. And look at this, remember this, in the presence of concentrated sulfuric acid at 413 Kelvin. Now let's see what is the mechanism followed in this reaction. Before that, let's take an example because I have written a general reaction here. So for alcohol, I am taking ethanol. We can call this as ethyl alcohol. Two molecules of ethanol in the presence of concentrated sulfuric acid, and at 413 Kelvin, you are getting ethoxyethane. This H2O is removed. You are getting C2H5O, C2H5, diethyl ether plus H2O. And remember, this reaction follows bimolecular nucleophilic substitution reaction mechanism, which we call as SN2 mechanism. We have learned about this mechanism when we studied haloalkanes and haloarenes. So this reaction follows SN2 mechanism. What is SN2 mechanism? The reaction takes place in single step. So the rate of the reaction depends on both the reactants concentration. So that is SN2 mechanism. Now let's see the mechanism in this reaction. So in this mechanism, first the alcohol gets protonated in the presence of acid. What is protonation? See, this is the H plus from the acid and this alcohol is getting protonated because the oxygen here gives its electrons to this H plus. So this H is getting attached here. So this oxygen gets a positive charge. So this we call as protonated alcohol. Since I am taking ethanol here, this is called as protonated ethanol. So this is a first step. Actually, we don't call this as step 1 and step 2 because this happens in a single step. Just to make you understand what's going on here, I'm showing you this in two different steps. But this is SN2 mechanism, so this actually happens in a single step. So what happens next is, after the alcohol, one of the alcohol is getting protonated, I told you in the beginning of the reaction, we are going to take two molecules of alcohols. So one alcohol is getting protonated. So now what is happening to the another alcohol? Now what happens? The nucleophilic attack of unprotonated alcohol on the protonated alcohol, because the protonated alcohol has a positive charge and this unprotonated alcohol has electrons here. So this acts as a nucleophile and this goes and attacks this protonated alcohol. So that's what happens now. So this is following the SN2 mechanism. So this happens in a single step. So this reaction is actually following SN2 mechanism. So this is going to happen in a single step. So when we say single step, there is a transition state. What happens in the transition state? The attacking nucleophile will be bonded to the substrate, and the outgoing part is also attached to the substrate. So we have a transition state where both bond formation and bond cleavage happens. So this is called as transition state. So from this transition state, water molecule is removed and H plus is removed. So you're ending up with ethoxyethane. In your textbook, they would have actually given this as 2 steps. I'll show you that. So recall, what is the first step? Protonation of alcohol in the presence of acid. The same mechanism just now we have seen. I've just written it as it is given in your textbook so that you will not get confused when you read your textbook. See, ethanol is getting protonated, so we are calling this as protonated ethanol. See, H is getting attached here, so oxygen gets a positive charge. So this is an electrophile. Now we have another molecule of alcohol which is unprotonated. So this is going to attack this protonated alcohol. See, this oxygen is pulling these electrons and this oxygen is going in, giving its electron to this carbon. So what will happen? This oxygen will come and get attached here. This H2O will go out. So CH3, CH2 bond this O. OH, CH2, CH3. This part has come out as H2O. So now what happens? Deprotonation. So this oxygen with a positive charge is pulling this electrons. So H is coming out as H plus. So you're ending up with ether, ethoxyethane. So this reaction is actually following SN2 mechanism. So everything happens in a single step. The reason why I keep on telling you this reaction follows SN2 mechanism because we are going to learn about the limitation of this reaction. So at that time, we are going to talk about this mechanism which plays a role when we use different alcohol like primary, secondary and tertiary, what product you would get. Now, the limitation of this reaction. If the alcohol is primary alcohol, see the alcohol that you are taking is primary alcohol and the temperature is kept low, then what will happen? Substitution reaction will happen which follows SN2 mechanism. So you get ether. This is what we are talking about when the alcohol is primary alcohol. Suppose if the alcohol is secondary or tertiary alcohol, here elimination competes over substitution and you get ethene. Alkene is formed. And remember that elimination follows SN1 mechanism. So remember, when the alcohol is primary and the temperature is kept low, you get ether because it follows substitution reaction SN2 mechanism. But here also you have to remember one thing, even though the alcohol is primary and the temperature is high, then what will happen? Elimination happens and you end up with alkene. In that case, SN1 mechanism is followed. And here when the alcohol is secondary and tertiary, you can split that also, which you will be learning in higher classes, but still I tell you, if the alcohol is secondary, it will give you a mixture of ether and ethene because not ethene, alkene, ether and alkene. When you get ether, the reaction follows SN2 mechanism. When you get alkene, the reaction follows SN1 mechanism. In the case of tertiary alcohol, alkene is the main product. So when we get alkene as the product, we say elimination competes over substitution, and in that reaction SN1 mechanism is followed. So remember, when there is substitution you get ether, when there is elimination you get alkene. So remember, dehydration of secondary and tertiary alcohols gives you alkenes. What is the reason? Elimination competes over substitution. The next method of preparation of ether is Williamson synthesis. In Williamson synthesis, we are going to take again alkyl halide and treat it with sodium alkoxide. See, Rx is the general formula for alkyl halide and RONA is the sodium alkoxide. ROH will be alcohol. In that, if you replace H with Na, you are getting sodium alkoxide. See, this Na and X goes out as NaX, you are getting ROR, ether. So this method where you prepare ether from alkyl halide and sodium alkoxide is called as Williamson synthesis. So I have written an example here. For alkyl halide, I am taking ethyl bromide. For sodium alkoxide, I am taking sodium ethoxide. C2H5Br plus C2H5ONa. What do you get? This Na and this Br goes out as NaBr, C2H5O, C2H5, diethyl ether. Now this reaction also involves SN2 mechanism. See, it involves a nucleophilic attack of alkoxide ion on alkyl halide. So this is the alkyl halide. In this alkyl halide, this alkoxide ion Na plus goes out, C2H5O minus, which is written as RO minus. This is going to attack this alkyl halide. So you have a transition state here. RO bonded with R and this X going out. So the bond formation and bond cleavage happens at the same time, which we call as transition state. And this is a slow step and this is the fast step. Now what do you get? Ether plus X minus. So again this reaction follows SN2 mechanism. Now the limitation of the reaction. So what if you take primary alkyl halide or secondary alkyl halide or tertiary alkyl halide? Will you get the same product as ether, or will it differ like how you have studied for alcohols now? When you take primary alcohols, you are getting ether, but in the case of secondary and tertiary alcohol, you end up with alkenes. Same way, let's see what are the limitations of this Williamson synthesis. If you take a primary alkyl halide and treat it with sodium ethoxide, you will get ether. And here what happens? Substitution takes place and it follows SN2 mechanism. If you take secondary or primary alkyl halide and treat it with sodium ethoxide, you will end up with alkene. Just like how we said there, elimination competes over substitution. Now look here, I have taken tertiary butyl bromide. So this is a tertiary alkyl halide, tertiary butyl bromide, and I am treating it with a primary alkoxide, which means I am taking sodium methoxide. If I treat with that, what do I get? I don't get an ether. What do I get? I get an eliminated product, 2-methyl propene. Elimination takes place because this alkoxide actually causes the elimination of the alkyl halide to form an alkene. So if you take a tertiary alkyl halide, you end up with an elimination product. So now if you take primary alkyl halide and treat with sodium ethoxide, you are getting an ether. Just now we have seen how you prepare diethyl ether from ethyl bromide and sodium ethoxide. Now the question is, if I want to prepare a tertiary ether, for example tertiary butyl ethyl ether, how can I prepare it? Because every time I take a tertiary alkyl halide, I am going to get an eliminated product, not an ether. So in that case, what you're supposed to do is, you have to take an alkyl halide, don't change that, because only alkyl halides can give you ethers, and instead of sodium ethoxide, I'm going to take the tertiary alkoxide. So here I'm going to take sodium tertiary butoxide. So depending upon what product you want, you can change this alkyl part in alkoxide. So I am taking tertiary butoxide. Here I have taken ethyl bromide. So here the butyl part, tertiary butyl part will come. From here the ethyl part will come. So I will get tertiary butyl ethyl ether. So remember, if you want to prepare an ether, always take a primary alkyl halide, but you can prefer any alkoxide, which means this substrate, this reactant can be sodium ethoxide. Depending upon that, you will get an ether. If you take tertiary butoxide, sodium tertiary butoxide, you will get different product. So don't change this part. This should be always primary alkyl halide. Now another limitation here is, you cannot prepare aryl alkyl ether by this Williamson synthesis. What is aryl alkyl ether? So we have seen two methods of preparation of ethers. One is acidic dehydration of alcohols. The other one is Williamson synthesis. And you have to be clear with this mechanism and the limitation of the reaction, so that when you are asked to predict the products, you could easily do. Suppose if they give you tertiary butyl bromide and sodium methoxide, you're not supposed to write ether as the product. Because remember, if this alkyl halide is not primary alkyl halide, you're not going to get ether. You're going to get an elimination product. So you should know what product should be written. You can do that only if you're clear with the reasons and the mechanism. Same way they'll give you this reaction and they'll ask you, give reason why you're not getting ether as a product here. Instead you're getting 2-methyl propane. You should say here elimination competes over substitution. So elimination product is preferred in the case of tertiary alkyl halide. Now we'll move on to the physical properties of ether. We have seen about the physical properties of alcohols and phenols. Under that topic, we learned about boiling point and solubility. Same way, here also we are going to see about the boiling point of ether and its solubility with water. Remember, CO bond and ethers, they are polar in nature because of the more electronegative nature of oxygen. But that polarity is weak in ethers and it does not appreciably affect their boiling points, which are comparable to those of alkanes of comparable molecular masses. But still, compared to hydrocarbons having the same number of carbon atoms just like the taken ether, then ethers will have more boiling points. But compared to alcohols, ethers have a very low boiling point than alcohols. So here I have written ether has a low boiling point than alcohol, and you know what is the reason for that? It is due to hydrogen bonding. Ethers lack hydrogen bonding, so alcohols have more boiling point than ether. So if they ask you why this order is followed, why alcohols have more boiling points than ethers, you should say alcohols are capable of forming hydrogen bonding among themselves. One alcohol molecule will form hydrogen bonding with another alcohol molecule, but in the case of ether we don't have such hydrogen bonding. So ethers have lesser boiling points than alcohols. Here I have written an example, ethoxyethane butane 1-nol. So in both the cases we have 4 carbon atoms. So this is the boiling point in Kelvin. For ethoxyethane 307.6 Kelvin. In the case of alcohol 390 Kelvin. There is a very vast difference between the boiling points of ether and alcohol, and remember that is because of the hydrogen bonding in alcohol. The next one is solubility. Whether ethers are soluble in water or not. Yes, ethers are soluble in water, but their solubility is comparatively lower than the solubility of alcohols. Now the question is, why ethers are soluble in water? Because we know organic compounds, usually they are not soluble in water, they are hydrophobic in nature. And we have seen alcohols are soluble in water. Why? Because alcohols can form hydrogen bonding with water. Same way, ethers can form hydrogen bonding with water. Understand here I said lack of hydrogen bonding. This hydrogen bonding we are talking about between ether and another molecule of ether. That is not happening. So that makes the boiling point of ether to be lesser than alcohol. Here we are talking about hydrogen bonding of ether with water. That is possible. So because of this hydrogen bonding of ether with water, it is soluble in water. See, this is ROR. This is partially negative. Here it forms a bonding with water molecule H2O, H2O. So because of this hydrogen bonding with water, ethers, they are soluble in water. I told you the solubility of ether is lesser than that of alcohols. See, the extent of solubility in water for ethoxyethane is 7.5 gram per 100 ml, whereas for butane 1-nol alcohol it is 9 gram per 100 ml. So solubility of alcohol is more than ether, but still ethers are soluble in water. So we are done with the methods of preparation of ethers and their physical properties. Thank you.